Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. I am 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐈𝐍, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show. As always, live every Thursday, 7 p.m. sharp Atlantic Standard Time, right here on YouTube. And I'm so excited for today's conversation because I hope you brought your drink, because we have things to celebrate. I mean, we've been talking about it, we've been hearing about it, we've been singing about it, we've been doing all kind of things, we've been stressing about it, and it has finally happened, right? We are officially in the era of a spot BTC ETF in the United States of the Americas, right? So we're going to talk a bit about it. We're going to celebrate it a little bit today. My boy Steven already in the chat giving you all the need to know, celebrating Bitcoin spot ETF approval. We're going to walk a little bit through the journey this evening, but first, housekeeping as usual. Nothing that I share here today, tomorrow, or any other evening that is to come or that has preceded this one should be misconstrued as financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I am just here for the ICE rule. The same way we have our yak is the same way we talk our facts, right? And it's all about information, conversation, and education, right? I know some things, Steven knows some things, you know some things, and we're going to all put it together. And hopefully at the end of this period, we are all a little bit better aware of what is going on in the crypto verse. As always, during these spirited conversations, I need you guys to remember to drink responsibly, degen responsibly. If you have somewhere to be after having these drinks, please designate a driver. If you have some trading to do after this podcast, please designate a trader. Please trade safely, drive safely, and enjoy 2024 and beyond, because it is going to be an exciting one, right? So as we said, finally, officially, we have had the approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF in the United States of America. Now, the way this has been discussed, you would swear it's the first one in the world, but it's not. We've actually had one that was approved in Canada, but of course, the US is the largest financial jurisdiction in the world. America is a global superpower. However you call what stage of their ascension or descension they are at, they are still a global superpower in all things, and especially in terms of financial services and financial products. And of course, what they do moves markets. So we finally have a spot ETF approved in the United States, but it was not without its headaches. It was not without its challenges, right? And we're going to just walk through the journey to the approval, right? So it's actually exactly 10 years since the first ever application for a spot ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF in the United States to the SEC. In 2013, the Winklevoss twins, who are the co-founders of Gemini. We're not going to talk too much about Gemini, but yeah, they were actually the first to file an application for a spot BTC ETF to the SEC in the United States, right? In that same year, Grayscale Investment launched their Bitcoin investment fund. In fast forward, a lot of back and forths, a lot of rejections. Fast forward to 2021, we see the first ever spot Bitcoin ETF It's launched in Canada. So like I said, this is not the first in the world, or not even in North America, but in the United States, yes. In 2022 and 2023, we had that roller coaster, right? We had many applications. We had many rejections. We saw people like BlackRock and Valkyrie and all these big names in the asset management space getting involved. And then in August 2023, we saw the courts rule in favor of Grayscale against the SEC, stating that the SEC had not appropriately put forward justification for rejection of the application for a spot Bitcoin ETF. And I think that was the first signal that we were close. And then we saw that the SEC chose not to appeal that court's decision. And from that moment, we've kind of been counting it down, trying to figure out when. And then in December, everybody pretty much got the inclination that by January 10th, we would have the approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF, and so said, so done. But that wasn't the end of it. Of course, this is crypto. Nothing goes easy, right? So we had some drama, right? What we had happen is that the day before the approval, an announcement was made on the US Securities and Exchange Commission's official Twitter site, Twitter handle, excuse me, stating that today the SEC grants approval for Bitcoin ETFs for listing on all registered national securities exchanges. The approved Bitcoin ETF will be subject to ongoing surveillance and compliance measures to ensure continued investor protection. However, apparently that wasn't them. They later issued a statement, and it was shared by Mr. Gary Gensler himself, that the SEC's Twitter account was compromised. They got hacked, and an unauthorized tweet was posted. The SEC has not approved the listing and trading of spot Bitcoin exchange traded products. Now that is the 9th, right? Of course, you know, the Twitterverse, the cryptoverse went insane, ballistic. And we saw the markets and the memes go crazy. So huge green dildo, right? Straight off. And then immediately flaccid, right? So we went boom up, bam, back down. Crazy. Obviously liquidating a bunch of shorts, and then immediately after that liquidating a bunch of longs. Apparently the hacker set himself up with some major trades, trading the longs up after making the announcement, and then shorting the fallout that happened subsequently. So people started questioning whether or not the SEC is going to be responsible for investigating themselves for market manipulation, because it was an official platform of theirs, right? We saw the memers jump out. We saw people sharing this particular image here, where you know he shows Gary himself looking over his crypto portfolio, a picture of Caroline in his hand looking lovely. You know, it feels that as though this has all been a huge game of manipulation with the intent to move BTC from the hands of the average person to the hands of their institutional partners at the lowest possible rates. Somebody always wins, right? But in the end, 1/10/24, the 10th of January 2024, the historical day, the first ever approval for a Bitcoin spot ETF. And as we said in previous videos, of course, they didn't just approve one application. They didn't want to give anybody an unfair advantage. And as such, they approved 11 applications all at once, and those funds that were approved and their tickers are above. So we have Grayscale with their ticker of GBTC. We have BlackRock with IBIT. We have Fidelity with FBTC. We have Franklin Templeton with EZBC. We have Bitwise with BitB. We have Hashdex with, of course, a legendary ticker DeFi. We have Valkyrie with BRR. You understand? Money printer go BRR, BRRR. We have ARK Investments with ARK-B. We have Invesco Galaxy with BTCO. We have Van Eck with another legendary ticker. These guys clearly have been paying attention, coveting that well-respected huddle ticker. And then we have Wisdom Tree with BTCW, right? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to Anika. Shout out to Anil. Shout out to Eddie. Shout out to the official Mr. George. George, it seems like we are on the climb. We're going to get to that 100,000 interview soon. George and I have been waiting almost 3 years now for George to show his face on the podcast. Of course, we promised that is only going to happen when BTC hits 100,000. Right now, we are back on the march up to 47,000. Let's see what it does. Interestingly enough, after the approval actually came in, we saw some hesitation, we saw some delay, we saw some skepticism. People were waiting. The markets took a while to respond to that news. I guess because people were gun shy, people were, based on what had happened the previous 24 hours, people were very, very skeptical. Even when it was officially announced, people were still a bit gun shy not to make those trades. A lot of people would have lost the bags that they were planning to unleash through those liquidations. So we saw a little bit of a more solemn reaction from the markets, but as of today, the markets seem to be green all over, not just BTC, but all the other cryptocurrencies that follow behind, particularly Ethereum. Now, I wanted to touch a little bit on what this means for the market, what this means for crypto, what we've been talking about, this ETF market, all this money coming into the space. What does that actually look like? So the total US ETF market is about $6.5 trillion, right? The current crypto market cap is somewhere around 1.7, maybe 1.8 as of today. So we now have access to a $6.5 trillion market, right? The global ETF market is reported to be somewhere around $9.6 trillion. But there is stiff competition, right? Bitcoin is not going to be the only ETF on the market. As a matter of fact, there are just under 9,000 active ETFs in play. 8,754, I guess 8,765 with the introduction of those 11 new BTC spot ETFs. Now, Bernstein analysts expect that the Bitcoin ETF will hold between $70 to $80 billion by the end of 2025, based on the volumes that we are already seeing in 24 hours. I mean, I think we're going to hit that well before the end of this year, 2024. We've already seen over $1 billion go into the fund in its first day. So it might be pump time, for all of those who waiting to see Bitcoin at 8,000, to buy Bitcoin at 8,000, buy Bitcoin at 15,000, buy Bitcoin at 25,000. We don't know if we're going to see those numbers again, because what this introduction of institutional money means is that we may not see the levels of volatility that we've previously seen in crypto markets, in the BTC market specifically. Now, because of the institutional players coming into the market, now we who've been in the space for a long time, we know about buying on a centralized exchange or buying on a decentralized exchange, self-custody, and having an exchange wallet, as the case may be, and being able to access BTC for no fees at all. As a matter of fact, most exchanges only charge fees for trading, right? But these ETFs make their money by charging fees. But what we've seen already is that a fee war has already broken out as everybody seeks to capture as much of this new capital that has been waiting on the sidelines to be able to access BTC as possible, right? Now, standard ETF, average ETF fees are around 0.4%, right? BlackRock, who initially introduced a 0.2% fee, have since dropped their fee to 0.12%. They now hold the lowest fee in the 11 ETF funds. We see ARK with reducing their fees from initial 0.25% to 0.21%. We see Bitwise charging 0.2%, but waiving their fee for the first $1 billion in capital coming in. I think a couple other ETF funds have also chosen to waive their fees for the first $1 billion or $2 billion, as the case may be. Everybody looking to capture the initial wave of interest in the market to start setting themselves up for what is to come. Now, a couple $1 billion can move the market significantly, because remember, it's all about demand and supply. And if people aren't selling and there are people who want to buy, that obviously is going to drive up the price. Grayscale, who have had their GBTC trust product for the longest while, have chosen to maintain their 1.5% fee structure. I guess they feel like that is not going to lose them any customers. They've been making money for people for a long time, so they have chosen to stick with that 1.5% rate. Steven say the market makers may dump it to 35K. I don't know if the BTC whales are going to take that risk at this point in time, because they know that any significant drop in prices at this point are going to be gobbled up by institutions, and then these institutions aren't short-term holders, right? So it's not to say that you could, do a fake out, get the price to dip, and then be able to buy it back. Because once these guys buy, they are going to be holding on to it for the long haul. I mean, this is how they do business. They are not, weekend traders or day traders, as most of crypto has typically been. So we will see. But what is next? We've already started talking about it. We've already seen the price responding to it, because a lot of the same justifications for not approving a Bitcoin spot ETF have been applied to an Ethereum spot ETF. People believe that this now clears the way for the approval of an Ethereum spot ETF sometime in late 2024, early 2025. Are we going to see that happen? Is the structure of Ethereum sufficiently decentralized? Is it sufficiently void of manipulation to allow for that to happen? We will see. Will the SEC have a different approach to its analysis of an Ethereum ETF to allow for it to be approved? Because one thing is for us to remember is that the approval of the Bitcoin spot ETF was actually pretty close, right? The vote was actually 3-2. So we without that one vote going either way, I mean, we could have end up with a rejection again. What is interesting is that one of those pro approval votes was the man himself, the hater of crypto, the guy who is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the guy who used to teach this thing, Mr. Gary Gensler himself, he's one of the people who voted in favor of the approval. So we give thanks. Thanks, Gary. Let me knock a glass. Come on the podcast. Let me talk about it. I mean, I know they want you out of office, so maybe when you're out of office, come to the Caribbean. We'll have some yak. We'll chop it up. I would love to hear from the horse's mouth how this whole thing came to be. Right? No, guys. Last episode, a couple episodes ago, actually last episode, we put some things up on our 2024 crypto bingo card, and we've seen some of them already come into play, right? So we've already seen the Bitcoin spot ETF get approved. We're already seeing speculations around the ETH spot ETF, and we are already seeing, with the addition of these, I think 5 new members to the BRICS, we are seeing the adoption of BRICS, right? How does this set things up for crypto for this year? How does this set things up for what happens in the US? Because you know, if the US catch a cold, all of we go get sick, or maybe we put them in quarantine and we all be good. We will yet to see. So we have a lot of things coming. April is the next checkpoint we're looking at. Of course, the Bitcoin halving event, elections down the line. We have all the Republican General Assembly and Convention coming up. Who will be the Republican representative? Is it going to be Donald Trump? Is somebody else going to tip him at the finish line to get the nomination? Will President Biden be around? I mean, people were speculating he wasn't going to make it through a first term. Who is going to be? Is Kamala going to continue to be his vice president? So, I mean, a lot of things happening, a lot of things shaping up in the global scheme of things to obviously affect the crypto market. But I think outside of a major black swan event, we are looking at up. Of course, we do ever go up only. There are going to be pullbacks. This is crypto. Pullbacks might be 30%, 40%, right? And we're going to have to be able to roll with the punches, right? But we're not going to be knocked out. 10 years strong to the day we are approved Bitcoin spot ETF. What would Satoshi say? Where you at, boy? Where you be at, boy? You chilling? You celebrating? You having some yak to celebrate? But I know we have some people in Bitcoin quarters who aren't as happy about this. Very, very wary about this new influence in the space by these companies like BlackRock and the potential manipulation. Me personally, I don't know. I have no information or evidence to support this, but I personally believe, this is just me, that these guys was messing with the thing long time. They have a wallet somewhere that they were stacking BTC. You can't tell me these guys just wake up one morning and decide to get involved and was going to wait until the SEC give them the approval to do so. Nah, it not going to happen. So I believe these guys been playing in the markets for a long, long time. They probably been the ones manipulating the markets. They probably be some of those whale wallets we don't know who owns. But now everything is in light. So let's see what happens next. As always, I will be here on a Thursday with some yak in my hand, having a drink, sharing with you guys. And you know what they say, sharing is caring. And I truly, truly love you guys. I truly, truly care about you guys. I want to make sure that you guys stay safe. I mean, in the Caribbean here, things been getting shaky. Hug your kids, stay close to your loved ones, watch your back, try to be as safe as possible. And as always, adoption is inevitable. Of course, like Steven saying in the chat there, make sure and like, make sure and subscribe, make sure and share the podcast. You understand? Leah, what's up, girl? I know Leah is one of those people who, like myself, has been in this space who's been sharing, who's been educating, who's been making sure that you people can't say that you didn't hear and you didn't know, right? Because we've been pounding it into your blood clot head for the longest while, right? Yeah, hour. But we're gonna be here. We're gonna continue to do it, right? We are now in our fourth year of the podcast and going strong, right, guys? Adoption is inevitable, right? So be good. 𝐿𝐿uminati out. Be blessed.